In the shadow she lurks, a digital sage. Her words cut through like a sharpened blade. Political cow, her voice brings rage. A rebel in the neon-born parade. With a keyboard she wields her might, piercing lies with truth's own light. Drifting through the endless night, exposing wrongs to make them right. Political cow calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. In a world where falsehoods grow, her wisdom like the wind it blows through every corner, every show. A beacon where the lost crowds glow. Political cow calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. In a cycle where truth gets blurred, her voice is the sword we've heard, cutting ties with every absurd, leading flocks with every word. In a world where falsehoods grow, her wisdom like the wind it blows through every corner, every show. A beacon where the lost crowds go. Political cow calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. In a cycle where truth gets blurred, her voice is the sword we've heard, cutting ties with every absurd, leading flocks with every word.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I don't know what happened on Friday, but there was just so much stuff going on. It's unreal. I'm starting to publish ASMR videos. If you just want to kind of put on the playlist and kind of catch up on the past few days, we'll have that in there as well. Given the late evening presentation that happens typically. Getting some during normal business hours, but having those available pretty soon here going out. We'll have separate playlists that you can just kind of like throw on the nightstand with your phone or what have you, or on the TV, who knows. But we got a couple of those things coming up. Crazy stuff, went down during the governor's luncheon that happened at the White House. That's what I want to take a look at first, talk through it. But take a look at the poll vote. Looks like it's 100% right now. Everyone thinks Trump is exactly what the country needs. I'm not surprised. His leadership style being what it needs, but let me just adjust the audio real quick here. And let's get going with the governor's luncheon. Yeah, right off the bat, I was going to say back, but you'll see what I mean with that in a second. But right off the bat, some weird stuff going on. Who is that? Who's the lady in red? I was looking back there like, who are you? What? Doing it again? What was that? People? Saved by the president. Huh? Making the rounds, saying hello to everybody. Pretty good. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Saying hello. Now here's the interesting part too, right off the bat. Okay? So watch this, all right? So we have one female, two females. Behind his head is 3, 4. So there's 5, and there's about 15 in this particular lens, right? So about a third of the room, let's say. There's social media posts going out that you'll see the comments from the governor of Maine pretty soon. But there's comments going out that, oh, she was the lone voice of reason, maybe not reason, but she was the lone person to stand up, and wouldn't you know it was a female again, the only female in the room. And I don't know how they get away with this stuff. They're constantly putting out these false narratives out there, which is not. There's plenty of governors that have been female. You know, former press secretary for Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, runs Arkansas, right? I mean, there's plenty of folks out there. I don't know why they need to kind of fall down into these depths when they talk about these things. But here, let's keep it going.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Mr. President.
That dude's pretty tall. Who is that? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, what president takes the time to go around to multiple tables just to say hello as he's on his way up?
It's a nice, friendly group. Lovely. Well, we're in a very good mood. We just had the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Ever. And actually a record for a Republican. Now, I don't know about have they checked the Democrats too, but we have a record so far for a Republican. Now it's 4 weeks. We have a lot of weeks to go. We want to finish that way, right? But I just want to thank everybody because you've been really amazing. The job you've done has been incredible in terms of this 4-week period. It's been a very somewhat historic 4 weeks, and we have a couple of things in the works. We're negotiating with Russia, Ukraine, trying to get that horrible situation over with. It's terrible. It's just so terrible. I see pictures that you fortunately don't get to see. You don't want to see them. And that is a killing field. You have young soldiers being killed, thousands a week, and we got to get it over with. It's bad for Russia, and it's bad for Ukraine, and it's bad for us on a humanitarian basis. I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine. They don't have any cards, but they play it tough. But we're not going to let this continue. This war is terrible. It would have never happened if I were president, but it did happen. So I got stuck with it, and the whole world is stuck with it. And right now, you have a country that.
Hey, so what's going on, Yoda? I didn't see you there. I've got, unfortunately, my dilemma. My second screen is not working because my USB-C ports on the computer decided to die. I didn't even know that was possible, but they're dead. So I really need to get some new hardware. It's decomposing by the minute. But in any event, which, hey, throw me a gift. Anyway, Yoda, what's going on? Good to see you out here. Interesting commentary here recently, right? The shift in how Ukraine is being viewed. I hope that more information comes out as to what's driving that. I'm curious. I'm doing pretty good, Yoda. I think I might be finally over this cough. I say that and I feel like I'm about to cough. It's like a psychological reaction, right? Let's see. Renee says he still holds the most liar in the world. I don't know. Zelensky's like, I just don't know what's going on there. I hope that more information gets revealed. There's more transparency on it. Otherwise, we really just have no clue what's going on behind the scenes in a lot of things.
Hazard cities, they look like demolition sites. Those beautiful towers, those 1,000-year-old golden domes that were so beautiful, the most beautiful in the world, they say, they're all in smithereens. Millions of people are killed, I think far more people than anyone understands. And we have people that better get to the table and get it ended. Should have never happened. It would have never happened. But I'm delighted to welcome America's governors to the White House. You're amazing people. Even the Democrats are amazing people, some of you. And we've worked together. Actually, we work very well together. I can't think of anybody. There's one or two, that it doesn't work out so well. But that's sort of normal. But I do want to welcome you, and I want to let you know that anything I can do, I'm here. I'm here for you. And we can do a lot. I do want to say that I left a great place, North Carolina. And we're really working hard there since I've been in. For 4 weeks, we've done more than they've did in all of the period of time. And FEMA was a disaster. FEMA wasn't there. They didn't do the job. And it was a terrible, terrible situation. I've never seen anything like it. And then they actually, when they did get there, a very small group, they chose anybody with an American flag or the name Trump on the front of the house. They would sort of skip that house very nicely. And it was just a disaster. And we've done it the other way. And we're working with a very nice person that we've had good relationships. The newly elected Democrat governor, who's here, I assume, is he? Okay, thank you very much. We're working well together, very well together. And we're not using FEMA so much, but it doesn't matter as long as we get the job done. But the people are becoming very happy. So I want to thank you very much. Great job. But we are, and I'm of the opinion, I understand FEMA very well. We had a good situation with FEMA, but it was a very expensive thing to do. And I really believe when there's a natural disaster, a hurricane, a tornado, or whatever it may be, you're very capable people. It's called you fix it. You take care of it yourselves. You don't have to call some faraway state and have people planed in from areas that they have no idea. They come in from Alaska to help you in Florida. They say, boy, this is hot here. This isn't, by the time they figure it out, everything would have been fixed. It's not a good situation. It's very expensive. You spend at least twice as much. They don't negotiate. They go out and hire local contractors, and they have no idea who they are. And I'd rather have my governor from South Carolina, Henry. I'd rather have Ron. I'd rather have from Florida. I'd rather have, I could name just about everybody in this room. I'd rather have you do it. You'll save a lot of money. And we'll send the bills. We'll pay, I think, far less. We have to have you have a little bit of skin in the game. Otherwise, those bills will be much higher than they're supposed to be. Especially with a couple of you in this room who I know will get bills that you wouldn't believe, record setters. But so I think 75-25 with the government, the federal government paying 75, and we'll go right through to probably either go through Commerce, maybe go through Marco, because Marco's very good with money. I don't think I'm going to give them to the environmental gentleman, Lee Zeldin, here, because Lee's going to say, what's this all about, huh? They gave me this, too. You have found some big stuff, by the way, some big fraud. You have, as he said, this one's not even explainable. We're talking about billions of dollars, so great job, Lee. Really, it's sad, but it's a great job you've done in a very short period of time. But I think Marco or Scott or Howard, and if whoever Howard may be, we want to congratulate him. It was a great session. He got no Democrat votes. I thought he's been a Democrat all his life, and he got no Democrat votes. They all called him to apologize. And, honestly, that shouldn't be. But he got approved yesterday. But today I'm delighted to welcome America's governors to the White House, and I've known many of you for a long, long time. And this week we're forging even stronger bonds of cooperation to better serve the American people. I also want to thank the members of my cabinet who have joined us for this meeting, and they really have gone right off the bat. And I also want to thank Senator Thune, because I'm hearing we set a record on approvals, and I was screaming. I thought it was going so slowly. I think we have a record. So I apologize to anybody I screamed at. But no, it was announced this morning. I think we had a record for the number of positions, so that's great, and they're great people. So I'll begin by introducing Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He scares me because he got 99 votes. So that's either unbelievably good because he's an incredible diplomat and therefore he's Secretary of State and you couldn't have picked it, or I'm a little nervous about you, Marco. And the only vote he didn't get was our Vice President, who couldn't vote because he had just left. So you got 100%. But it really says something. I think it says working together. It's an amazing tribute, I think. I'll let you know about it. I'll let you know about it in about 2 years, everybody. Marco's been great, and he's been in some big meetings with people at the highest level of states that we would say, states meaning other countries that we would have said wouldn't have dealt so well, but they're dealing very well. You have a great group of people with Steve Witkoff and Michael Waltz, and we're making amazing progress. I mean, we've made more progress on that situation, which is Ukraine, and then they have in 3 years. Again, it's so sad that it began, but we're also working very hard in the Middle East. Another one that wouldn't have happened, we would never have had, you wouldn't have had October 7th. They had no money. Iran was broke. We had sanctions up on Iran that nobody's ever seen before. They were literally broke, and they were not giving any money to Hezbollah, to Hamas. And how about Hamas yesterday with the babies? How about that? You know, we're going to take that. We're going to continue to take that. I don't think so. But I want to just thank you, Marco, for doing a great job, and Scott, you also. Scott went all the way to Ukraine. I said, don't do it. That's why they have telephones. But it's always better to meet in person. But I just didn't feel that it was good, and it was dangerous. You saw things.
Saw a comment in the chat here. DS, any federal Trump supporters, hold on, missed it, lost their jobs yet? And, you know, I just have to say that when Trump, during the campaign, they talked about, if you watch the X Spaces event, where he kind of endorsed the idea of a government efficiency program or department. Now it's department is what they refer to it as. But this was always something that was out there. I'm going to make the government more efficient. We can cut, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars out. What does that translate to? I don't think that should have been any surprise to anyone. That translates into labor. It translates into products, its services, all kinds of stuff. How else do you cut budget? I mean, it's those things, right? The assets you're holding on your balance sheet that can be kind of let go. Maintenance associated with that goes away. Don't buy as many products. Don't have as much labor on your books if it's not adding value. That's the key. If it's duplicative or not adding value.
Things on that train ride that you didn't like, I understand. You know, it's a pretty dangerous ride. The long ride. How long was that?
10 hours.
10-hour ride. That's after you get there. And a very dangerous journey, but he wanted to do it. He's a patriot. He wanted to do it. It's better to do it than it is with a telephone. Always better. I always say it's much better to meet in person, but that was dangerous. I like him. Therefore, I didn't want him to do it. If I didn't like him, I would have suggested he do it. In fact, I'd say, go back today and let's give it another shot. But I hear that they're going to agree pretty much with what. But that's not the big thing. The big thing is getting it done. And we'll get it done. Also, somebody who's been so popular right from the beginning, very, very little opposition, but she's fantastic. She was the Attorney General of Florida for 8 years, highly respected, and just an amazing person, amazing leader and woman, Pam Bondi. Good, Pam. How's it going? Good? You got enough work?
Like and subscribe, folks. This is Trump. It doesn't get any better than this, right?
She's going to be unbelievable. I don't even think about it. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. And Doug, I don't know if Doug's here. He was last night. Oh, good. You just disappear right into the woodwork, huh? Doug is a man who made a lot of money, actually, but in technology, sold to Microsoft for a lot.
Not to mention, James, Maui, they were given what? Just a little bit of money, right? And the estimate was that it would take $6 billion to rebuild all the homes in Maui. And yet, how much money is going away in foreign aid? Forget about Ukraine. U.S. aid gives away $40 billion. This is where priority comes into question in terms of folks here versus elsewhere. That's where priority really comes into question. And that's, I think, a big disconnect that the Democrats have had in not seeing that. They call it populist, but not seeing that dissatisfaction amongst the country. They're not happy with that because they're like, well, what happens if it hits me next? And then you see what's happening in California. You see North Carolina, South Carolina, right?
And decided he wanted to do a Trump thing, and he did, and he won easily. And then he became a great governor of North Dakota, and really good. And he was all of a sudden thrown into the oil business, right? And he took that to a level that nobody ever thought possible. The job you've done there has been amazing. And I watched he ran. Then I said, I like that guy. He was one of the few that didn't hit me. He was after my position, but he never said anything bad about me. I said, okay, that's one checklist that we have good. It's one of the ones. But he was an amazing governor, and he really became an expert on energy. And when I was with him, I realized I wanted him someplace. I didn't know exactly where, but I thought it would be the Department of Energy. I kept talking because the state has done so well. And I said, look, I want you to just hold it, and I want to put you there. He said, sir, I have somebody much better than me on energy. Who? Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? He said, is Chris here? I don't even know. Is Chris here? Hello, Chris. Boy, am I giving him some build-ups. I did the same thing last night. But he's the top guy in the whole, they say, on the planet for energy, in all forms of energy. Even clean, beautiful coal that we're going to be using like Germany does now. They're opening up a plant a week. And they're opening up in China more than, somebody told me, 2 plants a week, but we're supposed to use the wind, which doesn't work from a practical standpoint. But I just want to welcome you because you had the greatest man. When he said, you're probably the only man, because I know Doug, he's got a big ego. And you're the only man I've actually heard him say something. He said, he's so much better than me on energy. He's better than anybody. And so we made a move. And you gave up a tremendous position to do this, and we want to thank you. But we have to get going because when we bring the energy costs down, we have more energy than anybody in the world. We just didn't use it. Can you imagine? Biden set us up in Venezuela instead of taking ours, so that we go to Venezuela where they'd have very heavy stuff, and we have the best stuff in the world. We have more liquid gold, and it's really great liquid gold too. We have more under our feet than anybody else. But we went to Venezuela to buy oil instead of taking it from our own land and, drilling a little hole in the ground. About how big is that hole? About a foot? About a foot, yeah. We drill a little tiny hole, and we could have taken it instead of all of the problems. And then we've made Venezuela strong again. They've given them a lot of money. They never thought they were going to have so much money, and all the people are leaving. So you're going to have one guy sitting there with a lot of oil under his feet. That's not a good situation, but we're having talks about that whole mess. What a mess. That was another one that was done. He was ready to quit. He was going to be out. Marco, you know that better than anybody. Marco's been very staunch against what took place there. And we were going to have that in any form we wanted it. But Biden made them strong. It was the worst administration in history, and I say that with a lot of Democrats, but I think you believe it too. You can't say it, but you believe it. But I just want to thank you, and if you get those prices down, that's what caused inflation, the energy. I mean, the spending, but I think even more so the energy. The energy went up. They stopped the oil leases. They stopped a lot of things that we were doing, and then they went back to what we were doing as much as they could because the prices were going through the roof. Remember that initial surge? It was brutal. And they went back. They let any rig. They let any rig that we had up just drill. And they ended up doing similar numbers, but we wouldn't have been at those numbers. We would have been double or triple those numbers. Those were from years ago. But energy caused our problem. But I just want to thank you for recommending him. And what we've done is he's the head of Department of Energy, he's Department of the Interior, and it's really screwy because the Department of the Interior has all the energy other than some nuclear energy that you're in charge of. But he has all the energy, has all the land, all the great places, best. We have more than any other country in the world, and he's in charge of it. The problem is he can't drill, and he drills, but he has no land. So what do? We said, I have an idea. Let's merge them. So we merged them intellectually. I don't know if we did it legally, but we did it intellectually. So now he gives up the land and he gives up the drillers, and you're going crazy, right? You're going wild, and you'll do it beautifully, environmentally well, Lee. We'll make sure. But we have a lot of things, but we had a merge. I always wondered, why doesn't the Energy Department do more? And they didn't do more because they don't have any energy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. We'll probably have to make maybe even a change in that, somehow merge them or do something, because it's pretty tremendous what you're going to be able to do. Agricultural.
So some comments in the chat going on that absolutely true that I think more people need to pay attention to. The economy is not in good shape. It's been that way for quite some time. It's just coming to a head now. Remember, right before the election, unemployment came in looking very grim. And that was like final, straw that broke camel's back, swung the election to Trump, but not like there wasn't enough going for him at that point in time anyway. Gwyneth, Trump does meander. It's true. He does meander for sure. But I don't have a problem with it. I think it's humorous. It's interesting to me. Here's a couple data points. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. The Democrats like to point to the stock market and say, look at the Dow Jones. It's amazing. Look at, boom, did that work? Hey, come on. Why is it not showing up? Why is that not showing up, my friend? Okay. I got to find it somewhere around here. All right, I'll just give you the stats. I can't seem to find my graphic to show up. Apologize for that. Stock market is not an indication of how people are doing day to day in their livelihoods, right? Dow Jones is 40,000 plus. What does that mean to average Americans? 71% of Gen Z cannot afford their rent on a month-to-month basis. They borrow from friends. They sell assets, being like their couch or whatever, to make ends meet to be able to pay their rent. 71%. Why did a massive landslide go towards Trump for the youth vote, right? 15, 20 points. It's because of that one simple fact. The economy is not working in such a way that new entrants into the workforce can actually make a living and sustain themselves, hope to have a family, hope to one day, purchase a home. I hear these things from folks, younger generations just entering in the workforce, within 5 years of experience. These are real things that they aspire towards, but the system is not set up for them. I don't remember feeling that way. I just remember like, okay, I'm just going to put my head down, work hard, and go forward. I don't feel like I had to worry about the system as much as they do. And so what's happened over the past 4 or 5 years here is that a broken system, they printed money and just kept dropping it into it. Where do you think that money goes? The system is set up to favor assets, and people who had stock, people who had a lot of real estate, those asset valuations increased tremendously, while people that had dollars in the bank and their checking accounts, the value of that diminished significantly. The system's broken, and yet they would keep on pouring more money into it to exacerbate the inflation. 1.9 trillion right as soon as he came into office, right? What did that go towards? Another 1.2 trillion that they called infrastructure bill. I think another 600, 700 billion that they called the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm scratching my head here because you're over 4 trillion now. What is that doing actually to help anything? What infrastructure have you seen for that 1.2 trillion? Right? We should have built a new airport in every major city in the country, in all honesty. I mean, how much would it cost to build a new airport in Dallas, Texas, or in Denver, Colorado? 1-2 billion? We're talking over 1.2 trillion, right? I mean, that's hundreds of airports potentially. I didn't finish my thought. I apologize. So you had that inflation scenario. Democrats continuously pointed towards Wall Street metrics. GDP growth. Oh, it's great. We're doing fine, everybody. They would point towards the stock market. That's your scoreboard, they would tell people. Kind of like the 90s bandwagon when everybody became a Chicago Bulls fan, right? They were trying to get everyone to become a Chicago Bulls fan or a Democrat Party fan. And they would tell you that our scoreboard is stock market, which is not the case. That's not true. Again, 71% of Gen Z, and this is according to Redfin. They do these surveys at least biannually, and it's very revealing, the data that they get from it. 71% of Gen Z cannot afford to make rent payments month to month. 50% on average of the country, just average folks, whatever, cannot afford to make their rent payments or mortgage payment, more or less, on a month-to-month basis. They struggle. They have to sell things, whatever it takes to make ends meet. On top of that, a quarter of the population skips meals so that they can make ends meet. What kind of economy is this that we're living in, that this happens? And now we find out that, I don't call it the metric, it might be a quarter or a third of people have $1,000 or less in savings right now. How did we go from having the highest levels of savings in the country ever to only $1,000 or less on average for folks? Something's not working here, guys. Something is not working. And we hear about more layoffs coming from the tech giants. We hear about more layoffs coming from all around. Something's going to give here pretty soon. And when the Federal Reserve has to cut interest rates because they have a dual mandate, price stability, which is inflation, and full employment, that's a whole other rabbit hole to dive into. But when unemployment starts to increase and they freak out and they take a snap reaction to decrease interest rates aggressively, we're still rather unstable, fragile, I'd say, maybe is a better description from an inflation standpoint. We're in a really bad scenario. This is what Biden's left us with. A lot of people like to point at Trump now, but this is the scenario that's been inherited. I'm glad that he's here to try to steer us through it, but in all honesty, I don't think a lot of people are seeing this coming. Oh, Yoda, I see you calling in and say, no, sir, I'm not. You can ask me himself. I'm missing the chat. The chat's like flying by me, guys. I apologize. I'm not able to keep up with it right now. I'm going to take a look. All right, let's get Trump going again. Luncheon with state governors. Good stuff here. Again, walking through accomplishments, walking through expectations, kind of getting the room in alignment. Like, here, this is what we're going to be up to. I appreciate the gifts. Thank you.
Comparison. These are seriously tough people. The various gangs, whether
Hey, sorry about that.
MS-13
Had
or
the
the
audio
Venezuelan
mixed up.
gangs, they're as tough as nobody's ever seen toughness like this. Secretary of Health and Human Services, nobody knows this particular gentleman. He sailed right through. I thought he'd get a lot of, I said, well, he's going to get a lot of Democrat votes, Ron. I said, he's going to be an easy one, right? I told Ron DeSantis, I said, this one's going to be so easy. He's going to get all those Democrat votes. I don't know. You thank goodness for the Republicans, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And where is Bobby? Where is Bobby? So congratulations. Was that as easy as you thought? Just quit. Well, in the end, they all voted for him. He did pretty well. You got through. But, we have one stat that I quote, the autism stat. And you hear different numbers, but it's thousands. They say between 10 and 20,000. So if you go back 15 years ago, we had like nobody. It was 1 in 20,000. Now we have 1 in 34. Is that right? 34. So 34 or 36 kids have autism. And if you go back, I guess 18 years, that whenever that was done, it was 1 in 20,000. So we got from 20,000 to 34, 36. That's unbelievable. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. We've done something wrong. There's something you're going to figure it out. Maybe it's a spray that we spray all over the place that nobody else does. Other countries don't. The Pennsylvania Dutch, they don't do anything, and they're amazingly healthy. And he understands. He's working with Dr. Oz, who's a really smart guy. I know him very well. And those two guys are going to figure it out. They're also going to figure out why in the United States we pay $1,300 for a drug, one that we were talking about, and in London they pay, literally they pay $200, even less. $88 I heard in one case yesterday. They pay $88, we pay $1,300 for the exact same drug from the exact same factory, from the same plant where it's made. We've got to figure that out. So I hope you focus really a lot on the cost too, because Americans are being screwed, and it's no good. They're not going to put up with it. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, another one I know very well. He's going to be fantastic, Scott Turner. So, Scott, congratulations. Man, oh, man, you are something. He got up and we had a great meeting yesterday, right? He got up and spoke. He's a good speaker, that one. And
we should talk sometimes, Yoda. I don't have my guest line set up, and when I do, so you manufacture car oil. So, I mean, I'm in the big oil business myself. I'm out in Texas. So anyway, let me know. Send me a note. Guys, check out politicalcow.com. In the bio, I have my link tree. You can send me a direct email. There's my other socials. You could send me a DM. But hit me up. Be interested in just hearing your story a little bit next time I have a live guest available, just what y'all are up to or what have you.
Everybody loves you. Everybody knows you. Great guy. You're going to do fantastically. Well, you got a good recommendation from Ben Carson. Once Ben Carson recommended you, I said, all right, that's okay. We love Ben Carson. Nobody like Ben. Secretary of Energy, I introduced Chris Wright, and Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. I know Doug so well. Oh, where's Doug? Where's Doug? That voice during the Mueller hearings, that beautiful voice. Do you know, remember the catastrophe that every Democrat remembers this, when Mueller went to testify?
I got to let my dog out. I will be right back, but I'm going to keep it playing. This Mueller stuff, man, I almost forgot about that whole episode. It was so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
This was not a good situation. That's where it all ended, Pam, when he didn't know anything about anything. And Doug said, you don't know what we're talking about, do you? No. This was not a good day for them, but it was a good day for justice, I can tell you that, for fair justice. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, he ran for governor of New York. In theory, you have no chance, but actually, he almost won. It was a fantastic run, amazing run. And he's very smart. He was a congressman. He was fantastic on the hoax, the various hoaxes I had. I had a lot of hoaxes, so many I don't want to name them all. We don't have enough time. But he was always very strong, great lawyer, tremendous lawyer, and also a big believer in the environment and keeping it good and clean and healthy. And I just want to thank you for the job. And the only thing I ask is that you go speedily, because, you know, a lot of people use the whole process, the environmental impact process, to delay projects. We just want them to go quickly. And you can get the same answer in a matter of months as opposed to a matter of years. I feel so strongly, because people are coming in with tremendous amounts of money. I have been spoken to by yesterday I had Tim Cook in the office from Apple. He's investing hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't know. I hope he's announced it. Hope I didn't announce this, but what the hell? All I do is tell the truth. That's what he told me. Now he has to do it, right? So it's so good. But he's investing hundreds of billions of dollars, and others too. We're going to have a lot of chip makers coming in, a lot of automakers coming in. They stopped 2 plants in Mexico. They were under construction, starting construction. They just stopped them. They're going to build here instead because they don't want to pay the tariffs. The tariffs are amazing. It's good. I got myself in a lot of trouble. I said it's my favorite word in the dictionary, the word tariff. It's such a beautiful word. And the fake news killed me. They said, what about love? What about God? What about family? And I said, I'm in trouble. I said, so now it's my 4th favorite word. I say, love, God, family. A couple of others I could add in there too, but it's my 4th favorite word. So, and OMB Director Russell Vogt, thank you, Russell. You're going to be incredible. I know he took some hits, but I know how good he is, how honest he is, and he's fantastic with the numbers. And you're seeing these numbers coming out with the theft, right? And it's tremendous fraud, waste, and abuse, and all 3 of them. But I think the fraud is really the biggest. I think you're going to see it. You come out as soon as you can, I think, with your numbers, but because they're not explainable. They're not explainable. So I just, Russell, do a great job. That's all. SBA Administrator, small business. Now, small business is really big business. It's actually one of the biggest banks in the world. It sounds a little bit like, oh, small, little business. It is a massive. It is one big sucker, right? And Kelly Loeffler's here, so she's going to be incredible. And she's got an incredible husband, Jeff, who's one of the most important people in the world of finance. And he knows. He owns a thing called the New York Stock Exchange, so that's not so bad, right? And you have natural experience, but I think you're going to do great. And there's a lot of fraud in there from the past, you know, with all the money that was handed out. It was, you know, billions and billions of dollars. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Where's Tulsi? Is she here? Hi, Tulsi. I haven't really seen you. Good luck. Do well. Have fun. We built a building. The building cost like $12 billion. The building is loaded up with intelligence. Lots of luck figuring it out, right? Good. It was... He was treated pretty rough for a person that's an incredible patriot. We've all known that. So it's nice that you're sitting with Bobby, because you went through a lot. But you know what? You're going to be stars. And over the past month, our new administration has taken unrelenting action to fix every single disaster that we inherited, and we inherited a lot of them, the border being, I think it's the most difficult one of all. The rest we can get fixed, including foreign countries that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And one of the reasons that we won the election by so much, because we won it in everywhere. We won the popular vote. We won the 7 swing states, all 7 by a lot. And we won by millions of votes, the popular. It's always hard. I guess it hasn't happened in a couple of decades for a Republican to win the popular vote. I think that's changing so rapidly. But we had another thing that was pretty amazing. We had, of the 3,000 counties, we won 2,500 of them. and the Democrats won 500. It's a lot. They've never seen anything like it. It would actually, you would have thought that the numbers would even be much higher. When you win 2,500 counties to 500 counties, when you look at the map, you've all seen the map, the one that got certified and came out just recently. It's like almost totally red. And it's my honor. We're going to just work it out. But we really become the party of common sense, and I think it's important. I think it's important for the Democrats' common sense too. We're going to deal with you, and we're going to deal on a common sense basis. And I know a lot of you agree with a lot of the things. I don't know. Sometimes you're not allowed to say it, unfortunately. But I think we'll be all better off if everybody says it. That includes Republicans saying the right things. So on day one, I declared a national emergency on our southern border to stop the invasion of our country, because we were being invaded. Millions and millions of people. I figure 21 million people, and of that, 2 or 3 million were criminals. And many of them were people that countries didn't want. They would put them in these massive, large caravans. I came up with that name a long time ago. That's what it is. It's a caravan. And these are people, in many cases, they might not be criminals, but they're people that the country didn't want. They didn't work. They needed help all the time, or they needed assistance, or whatever. Our country's got a lot of people in it right now. And we got to make sure that everybody's treated fairly, but we got to change it. It's the most difficult problem, I think. Additionally, the heroes of ICE have been really hunting down the really bad ones, and we are going. They're incredible people. ICE. They were being shunned by Biden. They were being mocked. And let me tell you, these are tough men and women, but they're tough. They'll see like a MS-13 band of thugs out on Long Island, and they'll bring up the paddy wagons. They get in, and they'll say, no, two of them killed 2 young girls in Long Island. For some reason, they like Long Island. MS-13 loves Long Island. I don't know what that's all about. But 2 young girls walking to school, 16 years old, in the morning, they were accosted by a group of MS-13 thugs, and they don't use guns as much. They use knives. They like using knives, and they cut them into pieces, and left them, and killed them, cut them up into pieces. Little pieces, and they used knives because it's more painful. And ICE went in. They have no fear of these guys. They went in and they just knocked the hell out of them. And they'll go into a pack. They call it a pack, not like a political pack. Political packs are slightly nicer, but a pack of these MS-13 people, or Tren de Aragua people from Venezuela, and they'll just walk in. It's all you'll see is fists going for 5 minutes, and then you'll see these guys walk out, and they got them between their legs, and they're getting them the hell out of the country. These are rough people that we have to deal with. But ICE is incredible. Border Patrol is incredible. Law enforcement, the people in law enforcement, we make their job so difficult by allowing people like this into our country. We just shouldn't do it. So I've just designated the group from Venezuela, Tren de Aragua, as a foreign terrorist organization. I mean, in Colorado, they went in, and other places, they literally take over. They're like me. They're in the real estate business. They take over real estate. And they literally take it over. They just claim it. And they tell tenants to get the hell out if you don't get out. They had one case where a guy called the cops, and they went in. You call the cops? Yes. And they cut off his fingers. He says, you don't call them anymore. You cut off the other fingers on your other hand. These are not nice people. But federal, state, and local cooperation has to be the backbone of border security. So I hope, as governors, I know all the Republicans are very much in tune with Tom Homan and Christie and everybody, but I hope everybody, because ultimately you want to get the criminals out of your state. And we're focusing on the really bad ones. We have 11,088 people that we know of that are murderers, that are actually murderers. And I can't imagine anybody wanting them in their state, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat or whatever you may be. I mean, we have many of them murdered more than one person. Some murdered more than 5 people, and they're in our country. They let them out of jails. These were convicted people, and they let them out of jails because it's very expensive to have somebody in jail for a lifetime or whatever it might be. And they brought them in here. The American people expect every city and state to fully honor ICE detainer requests, and we hope they can, and to ensure the safe transfer of criminal aliens into federal custody for immediate removal from our country. You know, many of the countries said, we're not ever going to let them back. Under the Biden administration, I remember it's Venezuela. He's a tough guy. And others, they said, we're not letting them back. They're out of here, and you'll never bring them back. They're not coming into this country. And Biden said, oh, we can't bring them back. They won't take them. Well, we took them. And every single country now, you saw it with Colombia, you saw it with Venezuela. In fact, they actually offered to send planes to pick them up, and they'll pick them up so that we don't have to go through the expense of sending a plane. Is that correct, Marco? Even Marco couldn't believe that one. But they literally are sending planes to pick up these people. And they're rough people, and they're picking them up, and they're putting them in the planes. There's no excuse for any state attempting to aid and abet dangerous criminals, killers, drug dealers, really bad people who are violating federal law and violating the law by being in our country. To combat inflation, I declared a national energy emergency, and we had to do that. One of the things we've done is by doing that, we can go very quickly. You know, a lot of companies are coming in, but they need tremendous electricity, amounts of electricity. Who would have thought, Doug, right? But they need more electricity for AI than we have right now in the country. In other words, we have electricity now for the whole country. They need that just for that one industry. So they're coming in with, and we're going to be leading. We're now leading on that. We've really opened it up, and I hope it's good. But we opened it up, and we're leading China by a lot. But China's giving them tremendous electricity because they do whatever they want to do. But we're working with Lee. And I've told these people they're going to spend hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars, actually. So I need double the energy that we have right now, and even more than that, from what I'm understanding, which is hard to believe. In other words, take every car, everything, every building. We need, whatever it is, 100% of the energy. We need that amount just to be in the #1 position. And we need really more than that to really dominate, which I think we'll be dominating. But I told them, and they can't believe it. I said, we're going to get you quick approvals, and you're going to build your own electric plant so that you're going to create your own electricity when you build your plant, which will be massive. These are massive plants. But when you build your plant, we're going to let them build an electric generating plant where they build like a utility. In other words, instead of using Con Edison, like we have in New York, hello, Governor, nice to see you back there. And we do have Con Edison, and they don't do a bad job, actually. But, they could be a little cheaper with the price, perhaps, but they don't do bad. But we build our own utility. They can have their own utility. If they have any extra, they can put it onto the grid. But this way, they're not subject to a bad grid or a dangerous grid or a grid that gets taken out by bombs or war or anything else. So they actually couldn't believe it. They said, you think you could get that approved? Yeah, I'll get that approved very quickly. They couldn't believe it, and they're so happy. And they're going to do some in Virginia, some big ones. But we're going to go, and this way it's really a self-service. They just have this massive building with a large electric generating facility that'll be powered by natural gas, mostly. Some will use coal, some will use nuclear, clean coal. I only say clean coal, but some will use nuclear. They have their right to do it. None will use wind because wind doesn't work. It's just terrible how an environmental person can like wind. It kills the birds. It's very expensive. It's 7-8 times more expensive than other forms of energy. Every wind turbine in the country that goes up needs massive subsidies. It's really the only energy that needs subsidy, essentially. The solar's doing okay. So it's the only one. But to combat inflation, I declared that national energy emergency, and we're going to unleash the liquid gold under our feet to bring the prices way down. That's going to happen. And again, we're going to have a big part of that's going to be natural gas, which is very, very clean, and clean coal. We're going to do as many forms of energy as we can. And it's going to be something I think everybody knows, and you're going to call me or anybody else if you have difficulty or problems, but you're going to have levels of business being brought to this country that you've never seen before. The tariffs are
Hey, everybody. So my dog's still running around outside. I got to go track her down. When the squirrels come out or the rabbits, I don't know, it's just that time of the year. She just goes on a hunt. I don't know what to tell you. I'll spare you the details on that. But this is important stuff right here. So he's talking about wind energy not being competitive from a pricing standpoint, and that's kilowatt hour prices, megawatt hour prices coming through. Requires a lot of subsidy, a lot of capital investment to get them going. Everybody likes to point at Texas and say, oh, look at their deregulation. It led to that, freeze crisis where the whole state was basically out of power and freezing temperatures. People were not doing well and stuff. 25%, maybe 25% of the state's energy comes from, from wind power. We have massive wind farms because someone thought it was a brilliant idea to put them out in West Texas where there's continuous wind flow, and you would just collect that and put that into the grid. Oddly enough, when they did freeze up, these wind turbines literally froze. They weren't turning, even though there was wind. They did not turn, and it caused the energy crisis that we had. We didn't have excess capacity to bump up our natural gas plants to make up the difference. And people were very critical of us for not purchasing, us being the state of Texas, not adding on those cold weather kits onto those wind turbines. There's a colleague of mine who's, in the north, watches over a wind farm in North Dakota, and he actually mentioned that, hey, you know what? It's constantly snowing up here, and we don't have cold weather kits on any of our wind turbines. They don't make sense because they actually don't really do much of anything. But what he did point out is that the humidity in the winter in North Dakota is considerably less than what it is in Texas. So the air was actually freezing around these wind turbines because humidity is just higher, being close to the Gulf, causing it to be, upwards 60% in, these cold weather environments, which is crazy to think. And so it was actually the quality of the air, the humidity, that got to them. And if you did want to have those cold weather kits installed, oddly enough, you need to have them hooked into a natural gas facility in order for them to operate, because they won't operate on their own. They need natural gas to run. So the paradoxes and the craziness of this whole situation just kind of, I don't know. It's on par with plastic straws and paper straws to me. I hope we do rethink this 20% wind situation in Texas, because the electricity prices that have gone up considerably, I attribute directly to the cost of wind, the cost of redundant infrastructure that has to be put in place to account for these crazy weather scenarios since 2022 or 2021 when that all went down. I don't remember which year, but in the past 3-4 years. It's a huge contributor, and yet nobody wants to talk about that because it's taboo. But as Trump's just throwing out there, right? He's putting some truth out there for folks. We lived it in Texas, but the rest of the country is just kind of turning a blind eye to it.
In them more than anything else.
All right, going back to look for my dog now. I got to find her.
Hadn't been here, and we're creating tremendous tax incentives. But the biggest incentive is they don't want to pay 100% tariff or 200% or whatever it may be. And as you know, we're going to be announcing tariffs on cars from foreign countries of 25%. That'll be done in probably April 2nd. I was going to do it April 1st, but I said I don't like that date. It's going to cost a lot of money to wait one day. I don't know. What do I do there, Pam? Maybe should I do it just April 1st? It costs a lot of money, that extra day, Marco. You figure what that costs. Let's do it April 2nd, right? I just don't want to take the abuse. We created the new Department of Government Efficiency, which you may have heard about, DOGE, which is now waging war on government waste, fraud, and abuse. And we've begun the largest deregulation of industries and other things. It's proper deregulation that has ever done. I lead the way on my first 4 years. We did more deregulation than any other president in history. And I brought a little list along that I thought I'd just read. Some of the places, when you mentioned Doge, some of the places that this money has gone. And these are the ones that I feel I could read. There are some that are so nasty and dirty and horrible that I don't want to really read them because I assume they have television on. We have guarantee they do. I let the press in today because we have nothing to hide, right? It's much better. They said, do you want to let the press in? I said, why not? You think Biden would do that? I don't think so. $520 million was given for a consultant to do ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance investments in Africa. $520 million, $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and social responsibility behavior in the country of Colombia. $25 million, $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. They have no place in particular they were thinking of. There is no location. The money was sent out, but they have no idea where it's going. $42 million for social and behavior changes in Uganda, and $10 million for Mozambique medical male circumcision. People that want to be or have to be circumcised in Mozambique. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to a consortium for elections and political process strengthening, which $22 million was for inclusive participatory political process in Moldova. And $21 million going to my friend, Prime Minister Modi in India, for voter turnout. We're giving $21 million for voter turnout in India. What about us? I want voter turnout too, Governor. $29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh. Went to a firm that nobody ever heard of. Got $29 million. They got a check. Can you imagine you have a little firm, you get 10,000 here, 10,000 there. And then we get $29 million from the United States government. There are 2 people working in that firm. 2 people. I think they're very happy. They're very rich. They'll be on the cover of a very good business magazine pretty soon for being great scammers. $20 million for fiscal federalism, and $19 million for biodiversity in Nepal, and $47 million also for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia got a lot of money. $50 million plus another $50 million for condoms for Hamas. They gave $50 million, and it worked out so well, they gave another $50 million a little bit later. Condoms, $100 million for Hamas. And we're also uncovering outrageous incompetence and fraud in the Social Security. And I read this last night, so, Governor, you're going to be bored hearing this, but, you know, you never get bored because it's not possible to even believe it. So if you live 100 years, it's a long time, but let's assume that they had millions and millions of people living because they have like 10 million people in the Social Security living. But let's go over 100. So now you're more than 100 years old. We have 4.7 million Social Security numbers, people from the age of 100 to 109. So if you're 100 to 109, we have 4.7 million people on our Social Security rolls, right? No, that's a lot of people. I knew one guy was 100. The great Lenny Litwin, he was a builder in Manhattan. He lived to 103. You knew him. He was one of the greatest builders. He was so happy. The reason he lived, he loved building. He'd build a building a year, right? Never had a problem. You knew Lenny Litwin, I would think, Governor, right? He was a great guy and got along with everybody. He got along with Democrats, Republicans. Everybody loved Lenny. When he died, it was a bad day for New York, I'll tell you. He was a great guy. But he lived to 103, 104 because he just loved his business. He was designing a new building at 103, and that was the end of it. He didn't quite get the design finished. But you had 3.6 million people aged 110, substantially older than good old Lenny. From 110 to 119, you have 3.6. These are the people on the rolls. Now we're looking to see whether or not they've been paid, because if they've been paid, then Yeah, just using those numbers to take out the money, all the money that's paid to those people. 3.47 million people from the age of 120 to 129. 3.9 million people age 130 to 139. 3.5 million people age 140 years old to 149 years old. I think this is the case for Pam. I think I might give you this, Pam, just you can have it. In fact, I will. 1.3 million from age 150. There's 1.3 million people, they're saying, are alive and receiving Social Security. Now, that's the only thing we're checking. Are they receiving it? Because if they're receiving it, that makes it much worse. If they're not receiving it, that just makes it incompetent. They shouldn't be on the rolls. And the only thing good about this is that when we take all these people off the rolls, and we have tremendous fraud underneath, people that are 80 and 60 and 50 and everything else, but this is really incredible. 1.3 million from 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people are on the rolls of Social Security over the age of 160 years old, including 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229. So we have, think of that, we have 1,039 people who are 220 years old to 229. We have one person at 240 years old, and here's the beauty of them all. We have one person at 360, which is strange because the country is 250. So, and they're 110 years older than the country. Here, Pam, you better take a look at this. That's much better for you than for me. Now the question is, are they getting paid? Because somebody maybe is getting paid. Yeah, I have a feeling you were. I said, what a convenient thing. This is so nice. We created this department, DOGE, and the kind of numbers are incredible. It could be $500 billion, but it could be $1 trillion. It could be even $1.5 trillion. We're going to find out. I mean, I'm actually going with Elon, and Elon is doing a really good job. And I said, who are these people that travel? We call them the Dogers. And I said, what are they? He said, they're generally young people with extremely high IQs who are very good with computers, because you have to be good with computers. So when one of these scammers talks and tries to tell them why it's perfect, they said, no, it doesn't work that way. You know, it's very hard to talk them out of something when they have you. But we're actually going to Fort Knox because I want to see, do we have the gold? Do we still have whatever it is, tons of gold? I hope we do. Wouldn't that be disappointing? Fort Knox. You grow up hearing about Fort Knox. You can't get in. You can't even see it. Nobody sees it. You go there and the place is dry. Would that be terrible? There's another one. Maybe you should go with us to that one. But we're going to go in there pretty soon. They're going to open the doors to Fort Knox. If any governor would like to go with us, well, good. Do you want to go with us on that one, Ron? That could be good. Could be interesting. Can you imagine if we open it up and there's no gold? Well, I think there will be. For one reason, it's really heavy. You know, you steal or borrow gold, you got to be strong. So it's not like other things. But we're looking at everything. We have the largest deregulation campaign in history, and we are, again, I did more than anybody, but this blows it away. And for one, every time we put in a new regulation, we're not allowed to put it in unless we terminate 10 old regulations. So it's 1 in 10. We did 1 in 7 in my last administration. And the problem is some of them were put back, foolishly put back. There was no reason for them. So if you truly want a turbocharged economy, you have to do that, and you have to get rid of the regulations. I think one of the reasons before COVID, and we did a great job with COVID and it was a hell of a thing for all of us, everybody here. But some countries will actually never recover for what they went through. But we ended up giving back. When we turned over the reins, the stock market was higher than just previous to COVID coming in, which was.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Wow, that was something. She found a little critter that she wanted to have be her new squeaky toy. That was a fun one. Anyway, cleaned it up, and well, here we are. All right, let's keep going, guys.
An amazing achievement, but we were just prior to that. I would never forget. I was sitting down with two consultants. The two.
John, on the bleach thing, y'all take things very literally when somebody's clearly joking. I don't think any rational person could really think that was something that was said with any level of, I don't know, like absolute certainty, or that he really meant it. You know, that's totally a joke.
Great pollsters, they said, sir, this economy is so good. We're the greatest economy in the history of the world. We were doubling up China. I was also charging China hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, which no president charged them anything, but they were killing us. But we were beating everybody. Everybody said that in 2018, China was going to overtake us as the biggest economy in the world. And by the time I got finished, we were so much bigger than China, and we still are now. But another 4 years like we had just passed, you will have China being much bigger than you. There's no reason. If we have a smart president, there's no way that they should ever be able to catch us. But this pollster said to me, sir, if Abraham Lincoln and George Washington came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, they'd never be able to beat you. I said, thank you very much. The next day I go into my office and a group of scientists are sitting there. Sir, would like to tell you there's something very bad happening in China. There's dead bodies all over the place. And that's the first time I heard the word pandemic in a long time. And that's where it started. And you know where they were? All around the Wuhan lab. That's why from day one, I was saying they had little slits like this. You saw them from the air, from space. And they were just little slits, but they were body bags. They were black body bags all over, so many. And that's where it came from. One other thing, I just before we leave, I think you should do this. For my safety and security and for the good of our nation, you should do it anyway, regardless, even if it costs 10 times more. But it actually costs you just a tiny fraction. If you went to paper ballots and you're voting, and I would hope that every Republican would. So it costs exactly 8% of what the machines cost. These machines, they got something going. They get business. It's amazing. So paper ballots, and paper is very sophisticated today. It's called watermark. It's impossible to copy, impossible to cheat. It's actually hard to believe that a piece of paper is highly sophisticated. But it's watermark, and it's it's amazing, actually, when you see it. You can't cheat. But if you went to paper ballots and same-day voting, and if you went to voter ID, and also one other thing, you want a proof of citizenship. Those four things: proof of citizenship, voter ID, paper ballots, one-day voting. And if you went to 2-day voting or 3-day voting. But some of these states, you had 64 days. You know, California just finished up just a short while ago. They were voting a week and a half ago. They're trying to finish them up. And other states, too. They were weeks after the election. I mean, if that were a close election, you'd have to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. You got finished fast, Brian. Thank you for your help. We did very well in Georgia. It was very nice. But some of these states, if you had a close election, you wouldn't know who won. And then, once that happens, then you really never know who won. But you would save tens of millions of dollars, forgetting about right, wrong, and security, safety, our country, our Constitution, and all of this. Number one, you'd have a much safer election. Number two, everybody, you'd know the results of your election by 10 o'clock. Everybody, it's a beautiful system. It's boxes of 5,000, boom, boom. And you can go and examine each box. It's so simple and so good. I did ask Elon, because he knows more about computers than anybody I know. I said, what do you think of the voting system? He said, computers are not meant for voting. It's just not it's too many transactions taking place too quickly. It's just not. He said, honestly, and I've gone to the best people, the smartest computer minds from MIT, from others. My uncle was a professor for 41 years at MIT. And a brilliant guy, and I got to know a lot of the people up there. And they will tell you that the most secure way that you can secure the election, and probably the fastest way, because there can be very little hanky-panky, is paper ballots. Can you believe it? So I hope, Sarah, that certainly the Republican governors. But if you want to save a lot of money, you go to paper ballots. It'll cost you 8% of what the costs are now. And that's based on a good deal for machines. And then when you go through the days and weeks and months of waiting, France had mail-in ballots. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you're going to have fraud, without question. And France had it, and they went back to paper ballots. And I saw their election, and their election was over at 9 o'clock, and their numbers came in at 10:05. And there were no complaints. They had a winner, they had a loser, 39 million votes, and it was done. We're one of the only people that has now mail-in voting, one of the only countries that has mail-in voting. Remember Jimmy Carter when he did a commission, and I think they had Scoop Jackson, they had some, at the time, big senators, and their conclusion was if you have mail-in voting, you're going to have massive fraud. And we had it in New York with the congressional race. Remember the congressional race? It took them forever like 6 months later, they declared, who was it, Jerry Nadler or somebody? They declared him the winner, 6 months later. But it was somebody. Oh, no, it was the woman, the congressman. I won't mention her name. But she won, but she didn't win. And it was really very sad to see that whole thing. Democrat, that was a Democrat and a Democrat. That was a primary, but they had the mail-in voting. It's just a disaster. So it's very, very expensive. If you want to save money, if you really believe that the computers work, which they don't, but if you want to save a lot of money, all you have to do is go to paper ballots, and you'll be cutting it down by millions and millions of dollars. So America will take off like a rocket ship. You're going to see things that's so great for the governors, and Democrat governors are going to have, you're going to get the benefit of this. You're going to be opening up plants, and you're going to be, I hope we have enough people. We're going to and we want people to come into our country, by the way, I do, but they have to come in legally. So we need people in the country, but they have to come in legally. 2 weeks ago, I signed an executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. Many Democrats are fighting me on that. I hope you continue, because you'll never win another race. And it's just crazy. If you look at what happened with the boxing, if you look at what happened with the weightlifting numbers.
All right, guys. So this is going to get pretty interesting here. This is, he's kind of going on a lot of accomplishments, a lot of wins that he's talked about. And it's been 4 weeks since he's taken office, right? 4 weeks. Unheard of that this much activity's happened. They don't even finish this much stuff in their first 100 days when they talk about, I have a 100-day plan, typically. And so this is like, he's gotten this stuff in there well in advance. Anyway, watch what happens now. This is a pretty key moment where there's visible dissent that kind of comes out. Interested in the reaction from y'all. I personally thought it was inappropriate given the circumstance. I mean, you're at a luncheon at the White House. The president's going to say what he's going to say. That's his deal. But your reaction, your behavior in response to it, I don't know. Let's get it going.
Got shattered, but they put up an eighth of an ounce here, an eighth of an ounce there, and it's 218 pounds or whatever, a lot. And hadn't been broken in 19 years. And then guy walks up who transitioned. He transitioned, and he knocked out that record by about 100 pounds. That will be a record not going to be broken again in a long. So we put a ban on it, and to protect women. I mean, the women, if you watch the Olympics, you had two transitioned people that were fighting in the women's boxing. They have women's boxing category. And if you saw that, it was brutal. What happened to the Italian woman was a really good boxer. After one punch, she said, no more. I've never been hit. It was a left. It was not even it was just a left jab. She got hit so hard, she said, I can't do it. They forced her to go out. No, go out again. You'll do it. Goes out again, gets hit again. No, that's it. She didn't want to die, and it's crazy. But the NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is the Maine here, the governor of Maine? Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with.
So, Governor of Maine having some problems after that entire walkthrough of things. I mean, there's a better way of just diffusing it, I think. I don't even know, at least from the governor's standpoint. This is not a winning issue. I don't know why you take such a public stance on it. It's going to hit the wires. It's going to be all over social media. We're talking about it now. I have no idea from a political standpoint why you would want to stake your career on this at this point in time, where he's going to clearly call you out like that.
They have an obligation, a legal obligation, and we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting our citizens. We're going to protect. So just to end, this administration has been fighting for parents' rights and universal school choice. We want to do something that I think many people in this room want, and even if you don't, I think you do want it, but you might not be able to say it. We want to move the schools back to the states so that Iowa and South Carolina and Georgia and all these states can run your own school system. And you'll do a fantastic job, Kim. You're going to do great. I mean, I use your example because you're so much into the education, done a great job with school choice, and you'll do your school choice. That'll be the easy thing.
No, Yoda, she didn't think that through at all.
Take it away. So just some stats. So at last, it's usually we're 38, 39, or 40 out of 40. They take the 40, I guess, biggest, most important, whatever it might be, but 40 countries. And we were 38, 39, and congratulations, but 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we hit number 40. So we were last in terms of education in the world. And we were first in another category, though. We were first in cost per pupil. So we spend much more. And by the way, second wasn't even close. So you have Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, China. So there goes the big country theory, right? They have 1.4. They're rated number 5. That's a little bit scary, isn't it? But they're all.
Well, wraps up after this, but the luncheon was pretty interesting, right? And I mean, I'm following these things a little bit more closely. This has always been something that's going on. The governors get together from time to time for various events. This one on, at the White House as the new presidency is getting going. Crazy stuff, though. Honestly, like, get everybody aligned. We have a common thread. Of course, any president is going to talk about victories and accomplishments and so forth. All right, let him do that. Why jump back out at him like that so visibly and so publicly? I mean, it seems pretty ridiculous to me. I don't know why she did that. The Doge part that he was talking about, I think, is pretty interesting. I didn't catch all of it. Unfortunately, I was trying to take care of the situation with my dog, right? Okay, let me tell you a little more. My dog, she's a rescue. She's sitting on my foot right now. Beautiful little girl. Rescue just outside in the countryside of Austin. She had been roaming around for, I don't know, a month, whatever it is, on her own. Very fit to survive. She nobody was feeding her. She was finding her own food. And now in the suburbs, we have rabbits out here. We have small, critters and stuff. And she's thrilled. Soon as spring, it's not spring, it's cold, but there's still some out there, and she'll find them. So she brings us gifts from time to time. So I have to kind of take care of a situation there. But she's a wonderful little girl, very sweet and polite, and loves having a little home. Just the gifts sometimes are surprising. I'm not used to seeing those things little pop up on us. Anyway, let me put something up here from the Doge standpoint. Let me see if it'll just boom. All right, very nice, cool. They did it. You look at some of this stuff, right? Like, here's Nancy Pelosi, right? Her net worth over time. My goodness, since 2018, has she just kind of turned into a one-person I don't know, corporation, meme coin of her own. She's like, her net worth is just like going like crazy here, right? And she's not the only one, right? I mean, there's others like this as well that are out there. Oop, did not get that out there. Give me one sec, guys. Ooh. Hold on. It's going on the wrong screen. I thought I put it up there for y'all. Hang on. Get that image. Boom. There we go. All right. So here's the Nancy Pelosi net worth thing right over time. And you can see it's just pretty ridiculous, right? She's just time after time just growing her own personal net worth, not really in touch with how people are living or doing or what's affecting them. And she's not the only one, right? There's a lot of them. She's just maybe the most egregious example of it because the numbers are so astronomical. You got another congressman, right? What the heck's going on here? Right? Because there's certain activities you cannot partake in when you become a congressperson, right? You have to hand over certain things. Yet on a salary of $174K a year, this happens. There's even more egregious examples. Let me see if I can pull one up here real quick. Where, like Elizabeth Warren. I'll just read a few of these out to you. Elizabeth Warren, $285,000 salary. How's her salary so much compared to Pelosi? I don't know why. I don't think it's a senator thing. Anyway, net worth $67 million. How does that compute? Chuck Schumer, $210,000, $75 million net worth. Mitch McConnell, that dude that freezes up, if you don't know who that is, $200,000 salary as a senator, $95 million net worth, and of course Nancy Pelosi, $223, coupled with $202 million, or actually it's gone sky high since then, $290 million. That was a couple of years ago. So these examples like really make you scratch your head. Like, where are they? How is this humanly possible? You're supposed to be doing something on behalf of the people. You get a salary that, puts you in the top 10% of society in the United States, right? I mean, getting over $200,000 a year, that's pretty significant. And yet, how do they take that and turn it into hundreds of millions or tens of millions? I mean, let me ask my AI real quick. Hey, what is 200 million divided by 200,000?
The answer is 1,000.
Okay. So you would have to work for 1,000 years if you wanted that $200 million, right? On that salary of about 200,000. I know the numbers are not exact here, but I'm trying to just make a point that it does not add up. I was going to say it'd be 10 lifetimes. I mean, the life expectancy is not 100 years old, but just keeping the math simple, 10 lifetimes worth of work at that salary to even get close to that range. It's astronomical, and it's ridiculous to think about that this is exactly what's happening. Gabrielle, I know you say investments. A couple of things are going on, right? Some of these senators, they do participate in insider trading, or you see them buy Google when they're part of an FCC oversight committee that's going to make a ruling giving them access to new broadband spectrum, or not moving forward with some litigation or regulation on them. It's going to have a massive stock impact. They do insider trading, and then 45 days later they have to disclose that now. But within that amount of time, they make a massive amount of money trading that. On top of that, aside from the insider trading, there's been folks that have looked at the trades of these Congress people, time and time again, kind of auditing them. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, they made 10,000 here, 30,000 there, 40,000 there. It still doesn't add up to 95 million over time. Where did the rest come from? So the number of individuals that have been able to exponentially grow their wealth in Congress is not in line with the ratio of how that works in society in general. There's something amiss, right? Not everyone does this. Like, you look at Marco Rubio, he doesn't do that, right? He's not He's not $100 million in the bank like some of these other folks are, right? He's doing things the right way. But it's a little ridiculous when you look at it. And so he's pointing out Doge and, the 300-year-old who's still claiming Social Security, and then you have to stop and think the country's not even 300 years old. What's going on with that? And then you have these folks that are collecting checks from somewhere. Like, where are they coming from? He just handed that list of Social Security violations, clear violations, or suspicious activity over to Pam Bondi to take a look at. I think that was a very good symbolic gesture that was just done there publicly to reinforce that accountability is here. Accountability on the Doge side as well, I think, is an important thing. So with all that said, good governor's meeting. Governor of Maine shot herself in the foot. Maybe she can write a book someday. I don't know who's going to buy it aside from Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid. Maybe they'll each buy 100 copies of it and hand it out to their friends. But I don't know. That was a bad move on her part. Another good message delivered here. And again, he's very visible. He's speaking to people on a regular basis. These highlights make it to news networks. I'm sure some of this is very well orchestrated from the press secretary, from the communications group that he has running in the White House, the communications director. I'm sure all of it's orchestrated to a degree too, but it's rather well done. It gives the people a sense of him being active and involved, which is not something that we've had in the last White House at all. We don't know what he was up to. We just knew that his best hours of the day were between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And then we find out later that Karine did not even meet with him on a day-to-day basis. So that was, that was always a pretty big issue there. But all right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream. I appreciate the almost 90,000 folks that have come through. Hey, take a look at the live goal. Oh, it disappeared. There is no goal. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for those that did look at it. I appreciate the few gifts that did come through. Constantly reinvesting to upgrade this process. I'll be on again in a little while to, I don't know, timing. I'll see if I can get on again in a little while to, take some guest calls. Actually, we're approaching midnight. I'm not sure if I'm not going to be online again. We'll do it again in the morning. But a couple goals coming up here. Get more videos out there because there's only so much time that we've got to kind of look at these things together in lives, important sessions like this that are not broadcasted in the mainstream media, or they just leave out in particular points of it, or they misconstrue exactly what unfolds in these events that I think are pretty important. So check out the channel. We've got Kash Patel's, swearing in. That was very nice. He did not have a scripted speech, but he kind of, really spoke from a point of passion. It was really good. If you haven't had a chance, go watch the hockey All-Star game. That was pretty good. Even though U.S. lost, I feel bad about that, but there's always next year. All right, guys. I'm going to close this out. I appreciate you very much. Let me know what you think of the new theme song, too. We've got a new one for 25 here. A little upgrade, I think.
In the shadow she lurks, a digital sage. Her words cut through like a sharpened blade. Political cow, her voice brings rage. A rebel in the neon-born parade. With a keyboard she wields her might, piercing lies with truth's own light. Drifting through the endless night, exposing wrongs to make them right. Political cow calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. In a world where falsehoods grow, her wisdom like the wind it blows through every corner, every show. A beacon where the lost clouds glow. Political calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. Is the sword we've heard, cutting ties with every absurd, leading flocks with every word. In a world where falsehoods grow, her wisdom like the wind it blows through every corner, every show. A beacon where the lost grounds glow. Political calling out deceit through the screens where fake news meet. She saves us from the twisted tale. Her knowledge fights where logic fails. In a cycle where truth gets blurred, her voice is the sword we've heard, cutting ties with every absurd, leading flocks with every word.